To build the revenue part of the BMC, it is necessary to target a price for our value proposition. This price will fall within a range between the competitors' prices and the value that customers place on our value proposition. Moreover, this price is the result of exchanges with early adopters, the customers who have accompanied us in the development of the right part of our BMC. By the way, it is from this part that our revenue sticker notes are derived. The questions to ask are: what are they currently paying, for what type of offering, and how? What is the share of each revenue source in relation to the overall revenue? At the end of the iterative process, we will be able to assess the cash flow the company generates from each segment. For each segment, revenue can take different forms: sales, subscription, affiliate, advertising. The choice of the nature of the income depends, on the one hand, on the customer's preferences, hence the importance of having worked out the right-hand side of the BMC, and on the other hand, on the company's preference for a recurring income, subscription, or a one-off income, sale. Affiliation and advertising are indirect remunerations over which the company has less control, and which add intermediaries, who may be partners, and therefore risks. On the Strategics platform, you must first create sticker notes for each revenue stream. At the bottom right of each sticker, the bubble opens to a window allowing you to fill in the amount of the different revenues for each customer segment. Do you remember the trousseau case? Among the projects selected, there was the Connected Plate project. It is a connected plate that helps us eat better. During the development of the BMC of this project, our reflections allowed us to identify 4 types of potential revenues according to our customer segments. The monetization of data from the application to the pharmaceutical industry, a sticker currently in yellow, and without a revenue level, because we don't have enough knowledge to validate the assumptions. We have assigned 4 stars to this sticker despite uncertain knowledge, because we are convinced of the potential of this revenue stream. The second revenue stream is a white label application for a major diet brand. We have not advanced our discussions with our partners enough to define the revenue stream, hence the color and weight of the sticker. The third identified revenue stream is non-subscription plate purchases. At this stage of our reflections, we are unable to estimate the resubscription rate, which explains the color and weight of the sticker. Finally, the sale of plates with a first-year subscription is aimed at different customer segments: specialized doctors, nutrition coaches, and spa centers. Based on our knowledge of the market, we have estimated a combined sales volume and price for each segment for the first year. This leaves us with a revenue stream of almost €4 million. The left-hand side of the BMC corresponds to how we deliver the value proposition. The elements on the left-hand side will allow us to establish the costs. In concrete terms, only the elements that make up the partners and key resources boxes will help us. Indeed, these elements generate costs to produce the activities. In the Strategics platform, when you click on a sticker in the costs box, you will find the elements listed in the partners and key resources boxes. For each element that makes up the partners and resources boxes, we must identify and describe all the costs inherent to the project. We will, therefore, answer the following questions. What are the essential and fundamental costs inherent to the project? What are the most important costs? What are the impacts on costs when you explore other angles of the business model? For example, if some fixed costs become variable costs. In the BMC, the information concerning costs is more accurate if the elements that make up the boxes on the left-hand side have been well worked out. It is important to be aware of the distinction between the different types of costs. In general, there are 3 types of costs. OPEX, which are all the recurring charges and operational expenses that will allow the existence of the offer, for example, salaries, subcontracting, rental of premises, etc. It is often a budget that is planned over a year, giving a short-term vision. CapEx are the investments necessary to implement the project, for example, the purchase of machines or structures, such as a data center or a factory. Depending on the nature of the project and its level of maturity, CapEx can be planned for the medium or long term. This is why, in order to be consistent with OpEx and revenues, it is necessary to annualize these costs. Project expenses correspond to the costs that will allow you to develop the idea before it goes into production. Depending on the level of detail available to you, and the level of maturity of your project, you may or may not be able to separate project expenses from CapEx. In our case, and to simplify the pedagogy, we have chosen to combine the project expenses with the CapEx. In the costs, on the one hand, there are variable costs, which are proportional to the expected business. The more we sell, the more you produce, the more you will have costs. This is the case, for example, for the purchase of raw materials, delivery costs, or server costs. The existence of this type of costs justifies that the costs part be treated after the revenues part. On the other hand, there are fixed costs, that are independent of the volume of sales, that is to say, whatever the volumes you will sell, you will have to pay this expense. This is the case, for example, for the rent of the buildings, or the salary of your team. The nature of the costs depends on the choice of acquisition of the resource. We can rent, buy, borrow this resource. If we buy, it is an investment. For example, buying data centers to store them in our premises. If we rent or borrow, then it is an OpEx, because we regularly pay the service provider who provides it to us. So, for each resource item, we have to think about the nature of the relationship we want to have with our suppliers. Cost analysis is often handled internally. However, it is interesting to evaluate the cost structure, the volume, and the partnerships of competitors. While working on the connected plate BMC, we focused our attention on the cost of software development and production. To add a cost to a sticker, it is essential to define whether this cost is variable or fixed in nature, before associating it to an item in the partners or key resources boxes. In the framework of the connected plate BMC, the development of the software part is an investment to be made before the market launch. It is a fixed cost because it is not directly related to the number of users or plates sold. In this example, one actor is remunerated for an amount of €1 million over 5 years. Also, in the connected plate project, we have opted for an industrial partnership to ensure the production of the connected plates. We pay this partner in a fixed and variable way. The variable part corresponds to the purchase of sensors, for €2, and plates, for 50 cents, for a volume of 50,000 units. This quantity corresponds to our sales forecasts, defined in the right part of the BMC. The fixed part corresponds to an annuity which remunerates the commitment of the industrialist at our side, independently of our sales volumes, for an amount of €250,000. Now that we have integrated the costs and revenues parts, we can think about the financial balance of the project, in particular with the help of the financial simulation view, which takes up the different elements entered in the lower part of the BMC by means of graphical renditions.